We know enough to always clean the room, right? We know enough about that. But we should do the same thing of the world that we're in. The Bible says that we Christians here, speaking of Christians, which I am, are the salt and light of the world. I didn't say that. Christ said, he said, you're not going to put your light under a bushel. He says you're supposed to shine in the school system, in the prisons, in every area. Politicians shine for Christ. And if you read through my prior broadcasts, I've told of all kinds of people who shine for Christ. So we are supposed to be here cleaning as you go. Like I said, when I go to the stores, you think they might as well put me on the payroll. See something on the floor, pick it up, put it on a hanger, pick that off the floor. How am I going to pass by and leave that on the floor and somebody else can stumble it? You might say, but Jacqueline, you didn't drop it. No, but if I see it, as they used to say, see something, say something. We are each other's neighbor. So I digress a little bit, but we are responsible. And quite frankly, the Lord, his eyes are to and fro. God sees to and fro. So we have that onus of being Christians, showing the light. So I'm going to talk to you in terms of morality, in terms of the music lyrics. That's what the good Lord put in my heart, the videos, and all the young kids who are digesting that perversion that's coming up from on high. And you hear crickets, this, except for my ear. Crickets, I don't know if you hear that. Nothing. So that is what the Lord put in my heart to do. And that is something that I'm going to talk to you about today. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. So people who move immorality. And I'm reminded of two things. Philippians 4:8. Besides that, we already established that we are responsible, the salt and light, right? That we're supposed to let our light shine. And what I used to say before, I should turn off the light. But how does light need to show up? Turn on the light. Show up. It's God in you. It's God that moves in us for good works. Show up and be present in the school systems, in after school care. I don't care if you have kids. I ain't got kids. And look at me here. So you got no excuse. I got a whole bunch of nieces and nephews, and I know right from wrong. And I'm just as responsible for the next generation to show them a different way. Philippians 4:8 says, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is noble, whatsoever is of a good report, he says, think on these things. So are we not digesting and giving that digestion to our kids of things pure, noble, and clean of what we need to do today? So I'm about all bringing that broom, cleaning up in the music lyrics, in the videos, telling you to call them. Let's have an onslaught of saying, this is nasty, cease and desist. We're not with this. That we stand up for our children so that children can see, wait a minute, there's another echo of what's going on wrong. Respectfully, courageously, but have it done. And I'm reminded lastly of the dash. When I get my walk in, I walk right past the cemetery. Some people don't like living next to the cemetery, but I said, Lord, I thank you for reminding me that we know our beginning. We don't know the end, but God has given us the opportunity to control the dash. Control the dash. So what will you do with your dash? And how will you live before the Lord? While you be the best mother, the best father, the best worker, while you still do it, those are the most noblest things that you could do. But while you're doing, how are we cleaning this world collectively and leaving it just a little bit better for those behind us? Because we all have the responsibility. Because last time I checked, because Rosa didn't sit down, I'm able to, because Rosa sat down, I'm able to sit down. Right. And I don't think Rosa Parks had any kids. I don't think so. Right. So we are reminded of people who paid the price when they themselves didn't benefit from it. Martin Luther King said, I might not get there with you to the promised land. He kind of knew, right? But because of that, he felt one day my children would be judged by the content of the character and not the color of the skin, right? So I digress, but I got to remind us that nothing good comes easy, and everything that we have comes with a fight. And so the people who moved immorality, I can talk about this all day. I didn't know which one to talk about. You know, I have an onslaught of resources, but who can I talk about morality? And again, my focus is on music lyrics. If you go today and read up any of the music lyrics, right? And no disrespect to none of the artists, because I don't think it's the artists in control all the time. It's just a demand and what people are consuming. But if we create a different demand for these artists, then I think that they will change that format. If you're looking at all the artists today, look it up. Look at some of the videos. Look at some of the sexually explicit. Well, women nowadays are not wearing enough clothes as it is, mind you, on the videos and mind you, on the music lyrics. And we need to push that back respectfully and collectively. That's the whole purpose of what I'm trying to bring today as I talk to you about individuals who moved in morality. Now, for those who've heard this before, excuse me, but those who haven't, I hope you learn these great people who moved in morality. And I never get tired of talking about them. I just never do. Esther Rolls, Good Times. Oh, Good Times that's the word, Good Times. I had a good time watching it with my bowl of cereal back in the day, and I was reruns. I didn't even know it was reruns back in the day. But it was Esther Rolls back in 1974, Good Times. Us older folks remember this. You didn't have no cursing. You don't need to have sexually explicit. Yet you could enjoy the content and laugh with it, and there was always a storyline behind it. And I so respected that. Esther Roll, she was the main character. She used to be on Maude, so we're talking the 70s, early 80s, and she was this representative. And Norman Lear, he recently passed away. He did Archie Bunker. He did the Jeffersons. He did a lot of staple items that really transformed the how we consumed media. And that is a great argument for me in terms of morality moves, and media does influence how we act. Media controls that. So whoever controls the media controls a lot of our norms and society and how we view things. So he was very important in bringing Esther Roll to Good Times. And originally, Esther Roll was only going to be the mother, a single mother again. She was going to be a single mother and depicting that narrative of no man in the household. No man in the household. And essentially, she said, listen, now she wasn't a famous actress back in the day. She was not very famous, not like Lil Falana or anything like that. She said to Norman Lear, wait a minute, Mr. Lear, I can't do that role, because he wanted her to do a role. This is 1974. This ain't 2024. This is 1974. He said, listen here, Esther. I need you to play this role of a single mother struggling in the ghetto of Chicago, that raising these kids and there's no man. And you're gonna, have the fame. Esther had a gap in her tooth, a nice little afro, just an amazing woman, right? So she wasn't all this depiction of beauty, Lil Falana and having back in the day. And so she didn't have a lot of choices, right? But she stood on morality. She said, here, look at here, Norman. I don't know if she said it like that, but she said, look at here, Norman. I grew up, she told Ebony magazine in 1978. She said, I grew up in a large family. This is Esther Roll talking, not Esther the actress. I slowed down a bit because this is a problem that we're having today. People not standing up, not moving around. She goes, look at here, Norman. Back in Ebony 1970, she goes, I grew up in a large family where our father was present. I had a good father. This is her telling Ebony in 1978. I had a good father, and I wanted to portray a family as mine did. Look at that. Look at that. Because normally he did not want a man. She brought James in. She brought James into the role. And she wanted to show that. So he had to agree. He agreed with that. And Good Times, as we know it was amazing. Good Times. That's 1974. So because she put her career on the line for the sense of pride and dignity, because she understood that narrative of saying, you know what? I don't want to feed this to my community. I'm equally as responsible feeding this junk. So she didn't do it. And he said, well, okay, let's go along. And the rest was history. Cicely Tyson, the great Cicely Tyson. She was equivalent to Sidney Poitier, but a woman, right? Excellent role. Oh my goodness. Excellent role. She gave it all on the line. She also said, I do not want to feed my community degrading roles, very sexually explicit. That was back in the 70s as well. She goes, I refuse to do those roles. And yet I believe she won an Oscar or something similar. She won, and she stood on her morals. So you can't tell me, right, that now with all the sexually explicit and all the R words and all the smoking and all the stuff that's just feeding on children, that you can't take a stand in wanting a different narrative. So those are great people who stood in morality, and that's hence the whole world morality moves. And when I talk to you about music lyrics, that's my focus here, because what goes in, what I just told you, the Bible says, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is lovely, whatsoever is a good report, think in those things, right? So in other words, if you do the opposite, you're eating and you're consuming, it's going to come out in all kind of ways. You don't even realize it, right? You're going to come out in all kind of ways. And God says, to think of those things. And he holds us to be responsible to rebuke those things when they come out. Another person, Dolores Tucker, perhaps you don't know the name. She used to be in Pennsylvania's first Black Secretary of State in 1971. She was a longtime NAACP board member. And in 2005, I have an article by George E. Curry in 2007, Dolores Tucker's Fight Against Offensive Lyrics. I'm going to read that again. This is Dolores Tucker's fight. She's an African-American woman, and she started to see in the 90s how pervasive the music lyrics became, and she realized that no one was talking about it. So she was a longtime member NAACP, and she became Pennsylvania's first Black Secretary of State in 1971. And she later chair the National Political Congress of Black Women. But perhaps her greatest and least appreciated accomplishment might be her relentless campaign to eliminate sexist and degrading lyrics from the music industry. Again, her least appreciated accomplishment might be her relentless campaign to eliminate sexist and degrading lyrics from the music industry. This article was done in 2007, and she died in 2005. And she also was a participant in Selma to Montgomery March. So she's been around for a long time. And so she was going up against rap artists Tupac, perhaps Eminem, and Tupac would have very sexually explicit lyrics, and she kept sounding the alarm that this is offensive to our children. This is offensive to our children. But they kind of just wrote her off a little bit, but essentially was offensive to our children. And they continue to say on the last paragraph, she said here, some African Americans refused to join C. Dolores Tucker's campaign because she often paired her efforts with those of Bill Bennett at the time, which was a conservative Republican. But critics of the music have run out of excuses. It's time to pick up where Tucker left off and declare language and degrade females, whether uttered by Don Imus or rappers, must not be tolerated. That was the last paragraph. And Don Imus, he was taken off the air when he called, Don Imus being fired, calling Rutgers University basketball players. This was probably back in the 90s or early 2000s, basketball players nappy-headed hoes. So he was taken right off. That was so disrespectful. And I remember that time. Yet, however, they're saying the contradiction when you look at all the rapper is calling B words and all those things, and that's a part, there's quietness to that. So just to see how 2025, we are still allowing, there's still not a pushback against the sexually explicit lyrics, and that's my goal, is to bring awareness to that and say, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. We need to push back against this degrading music lyrics. So those were people. C. Dolores was one of the people who stood in the gap against that. Esther Roll was one of the persons who stood up in the gap against that, saying how degrading it is. And again, I challenge you. Listen to any of the music lyrics. I got about 10 more minutes. I can keep on going, but I wanted to paint the picture is that we are all responsible. When we're allowing, and if you notice young kids, a group of kids, F word, C word, F word, S word, like nothing, younger kids, right? Besides the TV, the onslaught of TV, all the music lyrics that the young kids, right, hear. We need to call the radio stations. We need to start a movement, right, called saying cease and desist. We are not with this. Let's go back to decency. Let's go back to saying, you know what, we need to show children that this is so offensive. This is so offensive. Now the music lyrics that our kids are listening to, and I'm not going to tell you the artist, but we have titles. Whores in the House. I said a certified freak, 7 days a week, extra large and extra hard. Sorry to read that, but that's what our kids. This was a nominated Grammy award-winning album of music lyrics by the artist. Don't need to say who it is, but that's one of them. And what do you hear after that? Exactly. Except for I don't know if you hear my heater. Absolutely nothing. And our children, our babies, eating and consuming this foolishness. You know, our kids are kings and queens. They're not anything. And we know 13, 14, very vulnerable, and the devil knows. Get the kid through the ear gate, everything else is going to start coming out, right? I help people look for work as a profession. You are what you consume. You are your mind. The Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, in his soul, what? So is he. I can't expect, and I give a lot of, when I help young people look for work, I give them all the grace in the world. This is hard enough with the holes in the pants, and well, I'm not against all that fashion, but women dressing provocative, young ladies, they don't know. Look at the TV. Look at the music lyrics. They are dancing and twerking in bathing suits. Do you know that? Do you know that's what our babies are watching? That's disgusting. You know what I'm saying? That is gross. Twerking on a pole and all that foolishness. And no one's saying this. Right. Absolutely nothing. Right? Absolutely nothing. I say cease and desist. Tell the radio station, that's nasty. We don't want that. Right? Us older women, we are just as responsible to stop that foolishness. We are just as responsible to stop that foolishness. Because young women don't know. Us older women are trying to compete with the young women, looking like a hot mess when you don't know Jesus. I'm like, everyone needs to put some clothes on, especially in the summer. All right? And then our young men, life is hard enough as it is, trying to find a career and trying to find, their place. I've been doing that for many years, and I've been seeing it for many years. But we need to stop against this music lyrics. So like I said, cease and desist. Don't let them say, we ain't with this. We ain't with this. And guess what? Our silence, you know what our silence is doing? Every time you get a word to that foolishness and clapping like, oh, my goodness. Silence is acquiescing, is agreeing to that foolishness. Lack of saying anything. Lack of saying Dom Inus should be fired for calling nappy head hoes back in the day. I remember that. And I witch rockers. I remember that. And I'm glad they took him out. But yet the contradiction, right? This was in the 90s, 2000s. Yet the contradiction. Whores in the house, right? Getting awards, nothing. So I challenge us to start sweeping. Let the babies get a chance. Let them know what real love is, what real, God made sex. That when they make sex, the Lord made everything. He tried to pervert it. The Lord made, God made morals, right? God made clothes. When Adam and Eve fell, what did he do? He gave them a little fig leaf. You can't be out there doing all this foolishness, right? You can't. And us women too, in the church, look, I double check. I ain't tight, pants don't tight, nothing tight, long. No, this is my temple. I'm responsible for it, right? So we are all responsible. So next time I'm definitely going to come on. I said just a little bit more about people who move in morality, give them a chance. And quite frankly, that was back in the 2000s with Dolores C. Tucker. And yet today, there's been American Pediatric Association, there's been onslaught of more studies, and I can bring that next time. I think I did that before, of just how pervasive and degrading these music lyrics are becoming. And what you hear, you become. Your mind becomes that. Your mind becomes that. So as I'm wrapping up in 5 minutes, pay attention. Put on those music lyrics. Us older people, the grandfathers, the grandmothers, we got the time then. If you got some time, right? Get up, start calling. Start Googling, right? Go on to some of these videos. Google who are these top artists. And if you look at the videos, which you can't look at, oh look, you cannot. That's even soft porn. That's straight pornographic. It is becoming really pervasive, and it's not the artist, because they sing beautifully, and if you rap, they can flow. Oh my goodness, all these artists, and they're beautiful women and these beautiful men. And quite frankly, I don't think it's them. I'm not against the artists. And then I'm not going to go up against and also the executives behind it as well, but it's really the appetite that we're consuming, the world is consuming. Let's put a stop to that and say, cease and desist. We ain't about this. We don't want this. There was a Me Too movement. Let's be us movement for our kids and the Overground Railroad, and say we do not want this. And guess what? You might say, guess what? We are responsible for this generation. The ones behind us, right? The ones with civil rights, but this is moral rights, and this is immoral. Immoral rights, right? This is immoral. So we got to give them moral rights and standards and decency. And also, too, women, stop wearing those pants outside. Those are yoga pants. Put something over. Decency, right? Decency. God has given you a temple. And as you know, God made shame. Even a little boy, as he grows up, he knows what shame is. He wants to cover themselves up. God has given us that, right? We don't go, God has given us that. So I do say us older women help the younger ones, because they don't know, they don't know. So I definitely say that we should model, we should teach and love and bring them alongside, because the world is just trying to corrupt our young people, young men and women. So as I wrap up, we got 2 more minutes. My heart is the music lyrics. I want as a homework, just start listening and be like, oh my goodness, what? You'd be like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And it's nothing to the imagination. Back in the day when I was watching TV, they closed the door and it was implied something was going on behind those closed doors. Now the light is all on, everything on, the light, big flash of light zooming in. Then you wonder why kids acting the same way. What's going on? So as I wrap up, as you hear my passion, join this train. Join this train on the Overground Railroad train. And I hope to see you next fourth Sunday of the month from 3 to 3:30. I will be with you. I'll be with you and just talking more about what we need to do to clean as we go. Remember, I said, call them, say, cease and desist. You know, we ain't with this. We ain't with this. So thank you so much. God bless you and have a great Sunday.
We're done. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Wall. Have a great Sunday, sir.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.